In this month's series of techniques with the fundamentals program, we are focusing on back control. Well, not really back control, but just all aspects of back.
The back position.
Back position. But what I want to do is focus right now on what should you be doing when you're the person on the back. What is exactly are you looking for in back control? Like, what is this relationship between our bodies need to be like in order to be in control? So you understand when you have that position and when you don't have that position. Because if you don't understand if you're in the correct position or not, you're going to go for a submission, and then you're going to lose the position. You'll lose
your position.
Okay. So now the way of taking the back is infinite. Okay. So whether you take the back from the guard, you take the back from side control, you do a rolling entry, you do the truck, and you
every position you can take the back.
Right. You berimbolo into the guy and get to the back. Okay, so we're not talking about the different ways to getting to back. Because once we get there, what do we need to do? Where do we need to be? How do I know I'm winning the position? If that makes makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look first. So once we get here, okay, once we get to this position, now Jules will be a great demonstration. Jules will be a great demonstration because he's taller than me. Okay. And this is probably, your head height is the best indicator of where you are once you've taken somebody's back, okay? If his head's above mine in these positions, he is going to win he can win the battle for control in this position. And with us seated like this is a prime example of this. Our hips are at the same level, okay? And because he's taller than me, even if I'm seatbelting him in this position here, because our hips are at the same level, if I throw my hooks in right here, I don't have control over him, okay? As silly as this sounds, he's gonna win this position, even though I'm on his back. So what I need to do is be up and above him here. My hips need to be above his hips so I can have control. Now, as you can see, what it takes for me to do this when we're both sitting upright is I have to actually lift my buttocks on the mat. That doesn't work. So when we go sideways here, boom. As we go sideways, if I just stay right here with our hips at the same level, again, you can see our head level didn't change much, okay? This is how he's gonna win control of this position because his weight and his hip bone are on my leg, which is my hook. Even if I come over with this hook right here and take both legs in, hell, I can cross my ankles right here, which you shouldn't do from here, but maybe you have to. You can sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
But here, I can feel his hip bones. So any rotation that Jules does right here is going to allow his hips to move, which is going to allow him to move his body and his core, and he's going to have strength. Okay, it's weird. I'm not trying to control his hip bones. I'm just trying to control the movement of his hips. So if I scooch him down a little bit now to where now his hips are sitting on the ground and my leg, the muscle of my leg is now in his ribs and abdomen, the soft tissue area here. Now you can see how much higher my head is. So this is where the control is going to come from. Now this hook, as it presses in, it presses into the front of his hip. So as he tries to rotate his hip this way, I use that hook to keep him from rotating that hip to his back. My other hook over the top keeps him from rotating his hip over to the front. I use that hook to pull him back. So I can be loose right here, but when he moves and goes to move his hips, I use that hook to pull back, and you can see how my leg is over the hip line, okay? And that's really important. It's like riding a horse. I'm kind of trying to spur him, so to speak. But I'm in that groove of the hip line. It shows really good right here. You can see how my leg really works into that same groove of the hip line that goes there, okay? So my legs are active in this position in the sense of every time he tries to rotate his hip, one way or the other, my heels or the backs of my leg are pulling in and keeping that motion from happening. So he tries to turn his back this way, this heel pulls this way, tries to rotate over, this heel pulls that way, And that's how my legs are being used to maintain control. It's not gonna happen, scoot up. It's not gonna happen like this. Now you can see how my legs are not controlling this hip line right here. They're over more of this thigh area. Now it's, look, boom. And you can see how he can just play that little game and twist and turn and do virtually whatever he wants in that position, okay? So, that's the main purpose of my hooks, is to keep those hips, what would
Keep you from tilting.
Yeah, the plate, you know, like if you think of the front of the hip as like a plate, right?
Yeah.
And then my legs are inside there, and that's what's keeping us going. I'm good so far?
Yep. Keeping the balance so that way I can't rotate. I have to rotate my hips in order to move my legs in order to escape at some point. And they always say trap the bottom hip. He's trapping my bottom hip with that foot because I'm riding so low. I'm unable to twist my hips to contort my body to hop over his leg. I have to hop over the bottom leg in order to escape. I cannot do that when I'm riding low.
Okay.
So if he's riding high, I'm riding low, I'm in a disadvantage.
And that's what the whole point of the position is, to put him at a disadvantage. We'll talk later about what you need to be using to escape.
Yeah.
But generally what you need to use to escape a position is exactly the opposite of what I'm telling you to control.
Right.
To control it, okay? There's some tips and tricks that goes with it, all right? But I think the legs, using your hooks, is probably one of the most underused pieces of back control. They don't know how to use their legs correctly. It's kind of like people using their guard. They don't know how to use their guard to keep people off balance.
They're using their arms for everything.
Yeah, so using your arms and your hands for everything, okay? And Jiu-Jitsu is really about learning this squeeze and learning how to move your hooks and keeping that dexterity in your legs, okay? So, again, when we get here with our legs, right, the best indicator that's going to tell me I'm in a good spot, if I can feel his hip bone on top of my thigh, I'm in the wrong spot, okay? And you're like, and if my head is lower than his, okay, coach, well, what do I need to do right here to fix this? Simple. You do it every day in class. Shrimp. That's it. You just shrimp. I'm here, he's kind of high, put my foot on the ground, do a little hip escape, come up, and I feel a lot better now here. My head is higher than his head, and doesn't necessarily have to be much higher, it's just higher. And then now these hooks are going to be able to do their job. Okay? Now, what do my hands need to be doing? Standard, old school, seatbelt. Underhooks in the chest, top hands covering. Okay? In conjunction with my hips, in conjunction with using my legs to keep his hips under control, my hands are going to be used to keep his shoulders under control. Okay? I don't want his shoulder to get too far away from me here. I also don't want that shoulder to get too far away from me there either, because now his back can be on the ground and he's going to be able to start to escape. So, with my seatbelt grip, my top hand is covered, my choking hand, or one over the top of his shoulder, I should say, is covered by the underhook hand. Okay? This hand, as he goes to move, I pull my elbows into my body. And I keep this top shoulder pressed into my chest. So as he goes to move, I squeeze that shoulder. He tries to slide out from underneath me. I keep that hip pinned. He tries to twist. I pull his chest into my back, his chest into my chest. And here, my head comes up and over, and I'm controlling this top shoulder in as he tries to twist and turn. It's just sitting here like this. I'm hanging on. He relaxes. I relax for a second. He goes to move again. We tighten up again. He relaxes. And that's kind of the control game right here until I'm ready to get a finish, okay? So, your hands can do a bunch of different things. One of the things that I like my hands to do now is to immediately go into I want to say a dual control choking start position. So, after I get the seatbelt, I immediately want to grab that hand. Right as he's coming into it, I want to grab that hand and put my hand just like this over his knuckles. I don't want to grab his wrist because I don't want him to be able to do stuff like that, or him be able to maintain contact on my arm here. I want to grab his fingers and turn it away like this. So now as he tries to grab my hand, I can keep this here. This other hand wants to reach and grab his shoulder. And you can see how I turned his face too as well. This is good. If his chin's tucked down nice and tight and I do this, it's gonna make him move his head a little bit too. If he turns to look at me to keep that pressure off, that's fine. I'm here. Now, that control works the same way in this position. As I pull in with my hands and my elbows, because he's trying to escape from here, just like I did with my seatbelt, I do the same thing with my hands in this position. As he tries to get away from me, hooks stay in, elbows stay tight, and I pull this shoulder and I keep it into my chest. Okay. That hand fight is going to be rough because nobody wants to get choked. But I'm not trying to choke you right now. I'm trying to control you. Understand, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, understand that difference. If we're in there and I'm trying to choke him and he's fighting with my hands to keep me from choking him, fine. As long as he's fighting with my hands to keep me from controlling his shoulders. Okay?
But the way you're fighting with your hands to control the position, you're setting yourself up for a very realistic notion of a choke right away. So I'm constantly deterring my opponent's brain from escaping to, defending the choke. So right now, as he takes my back, yes, he's maintaining his position, but that arm coming across and the way he's setting it up, I'm at the risk of being choked. So I can't just, I'm not worried about being choked, and I'm just gonna focus on escaping. I have to focus on being choked and not getting choked. Then I can work about trying to escape at the same time. And that's how Coach Josh is gonna maintain his position more effectively, because even though he's really just trying to control me right here for the video, he's setting himself up for an attack, all right? And I can't escape while I'm trying to defend an attack.
Right,
and it's too difficult for a human to try to do everything at the same time.
Exactly, and by putting that arm across the neck, that's a threat of a choke first. So that problem has to be addressed. And if he doesn't address that problem, then
I'm going to choke myself trying to escape.
Exactly, he's going to move, and I'll be able, the choke will slip in. So understand that you're not trying to do a submission right now. You're just trying to maintain control. And if he starts flipping and flopping over and pushing, that's fine. Just ride it out. And just remember that every time we get to another side, that we want to just make an adjustment and correct our position to where we're in the proper part of control. All right. So what that means is I take Jules's back. Okay. Scoot this way just a little bit, Jules. Back, yeah. All right. So I take Jules's back. Boom. And I'm trying to control him. And Jules is defending, and he starts pushing, and he starts rolling us to one side or the other. He pushes into us, rolls us over to this side. He comes back and rolls us over to the other side. Now, right here, if I'm not paying attention, all of that movement that he did is going to cause his head, can we scoot this so we can see our heads now? It's going to cause my head to get lower than his. And that's what all of that movement was good for him about. So now he feels like, okay, I'm in a strong enough position to escape. Boom, and those hips start moving out, and I'm not going to have problems, all right? So when I take his back, okay, and he shifts us over to another side, bam, and I start to feel him out of position. I'm going to move, get myself back up nice and high where I was before. He tries to move his back. Okay, I lost the position again. I'm going to take a second, push my hips and go back up over the top. Okay, get my hooks back in on him nice and tight. And we can rinse and repeat this process. But every time we shift and move, I'm pushing him down and getting my head up. And it should actually be harder to shift and move from this position. If he tries to shift us from this position here, it should be a lot more difficult to do. Then that old hand comes into play, and then now I can start worrying about choking. But every time I shift position, every time I move, I got to reestablish my control of my opponent. If I don't do that, that's what's going to lead him to escape, because he's going to move. I can't stop him.
Yeah, that was by far my biggest dilemma going through the ranks, was attacking and going from side to side and eventually losing the position. I couldn't understand the head ratio aspect because my legs were wrapped around him regardless.
Yeah, my legs are around him, my arms are around him.
How am I losing you? I don't understand. You know, and so it wasn't until I was much higher up in the rank to where I started sitting there and trying to dissect everything that was going wrong, and that's what it was. It was the head level. Once I understood the head level, it just clicked. Because like Coach Josh was talking about riding on the hip bones versus riding on the soft tissue, I could never do body locks.
Yeah, it was hard to get the whole thing.
Because I was trying to put my chin on his shoulder and stay sunk in, and I started making things more difficult for myself. And then I started to realize, man, once I started playing a little bit less space and letting you ride down low, I could catch a body lock. I could maneuver from side to side as you tried to escape and just readjust my legs, shrimp if I need to. It was okay. I could take my top hook off and shrimp and readjust my positions. And
right.
if you're uncomfortable taking your hook off, you can put your foot on their hip and push yourself back.
Yeah, that's
right.
Just in case, just so you, I mean, it's not here, instead of like coming from here when he's talking about and doing this, like I'm talking about, you can just put your foot here.
Yeah, and push me down.
And do that.
Yeah, and I like that because see how my elbow comes up because it's on my underhook side. So once my elbow comes up, that's bad for me. So once I understood that concept, then everything started to fall in place and it started making sense.
So understand, okay? Now this isn't about like finishing people or the best back take.
No, because you can take the back from anywhere.
Yeah, you can take the back, you know, it's not the best way to take the back. It's what you should be doing when you get there before you start submitting, okay? Because we have a great saying about submissions. Position before submission. If you don't have control, you're never gonna finish it, okay? And the bulk of what you do in class is to get to that position and then maintain that position, okay? And if you think about a match or if you think about rolling with people in class, you only spend 3 seconds tapping somebody out.
Yeah.
Right? You spend 2 minutes busting your ass to get to where you want to go.
Position.
Right? And then once you get there, you got to maintain. And then if you lose it, that was a lot of work. That was 1.5 minutes of work that you lost. Because, oh, my hook wasn't in the right place or my hand wasn't in the right place, okay? It only takes a couple seconds to submit somebody, but it's gonna take you 2 or 3 minutes to get that position and maintain control, and that's the whole point, okay? So work on one, you should always be working on getting there. That's what the fundamentals programs teach you. We teach you several ways to get
there and maintain that position.
Right, but focusing on maintaining and what you should be doing to maintain. And the simplest of things to remember that'll change your whole thing, keep your head above their head. Not necessarily high, but higher as far as I'm taller than him, okay? I don't want to necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean here, my head's above his head, coach. Like, no, your head's not. It's up higher, but if we go here, his head's taller. This is what I mean about head above his head. I'd love to be a whole head taller than him when I'm on his back, okay? That's what I'm talking about here. So head above the head this way, not necessarily just up higher, okay? You can remember that. Your hooks are gonna click into place. Your seatbelt's gonna go into the right place. You can do the hand grab. Your chokes are gonna be a lot more effective. Your transitions are gonna be a lot more effective just from that one aspect, cleaning up that one aspect of back control. Anything else to add?
Drill it. Okay. Like everybody wants to come in and drill the finishes, and that's fine. Pick the finish, drill the finish, but actively drill your position. You know, let the person halfway escape and then try to reset and gain that position. Everyone can submit each other. It's super easy. The reason why you can't submit them when we roll in class is because you can't apply it, not because you don't know the technique, it's because you don't know the position. You can't control the position. So once the position is there, the submissions come easy.
Right.
I'm not really good at certain submissions. I'm really just good at that position. And so these submissions just come out automatically. So same thing with the back. And there's a lot you can do for the back. That's why it's considered probably the most deadly spot to be in, you know, especially if you have a body lock on you. So drill it, maintain that position. That's it.
All right, good job, coach. Y'all be good. See y'all soon.